Emmerdale's Moira Dingle tries to seize control of the farm's future next week, as she demands a meeting with Kim Tate. Can they thrash out a deal together, or will Moira warn her nemesis to back off? Moira and her family have been battling the Tates for months now, with Kim and Joe both determined to buy her share of Butler's farm. There's always been a sense that Moira will never budge despite Kim and Joe's maneuvering, but the truth about Cain's recent diagnosis could change everything. Next week, Cain finally follows advice from his granddaughter Sarah Sugden and friend Liam Kavanagh by telling Moira that his illness is far more serious than he's led her to believe. Cain was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer, which has been described as aggressive, but localized. He initially told Moira that it was nothing to worry about, but now realizes that he needs more support from his family. Kim doesn't know why Moira summons her, teases Natalie J. Robb, who plays Moira, but she might have an idea that it's got something to do with the farm. It's something Moira's wanted to try to talk about, but what comes out of the meeting will affect a lot of what happens with the future of the Dingles, the farm, and the family. How far will Moira go to protect her family as they face their toughest challenge yet? Emmerdale bosses have been working on Cain's storyline with support from the Prostate Cancer UK charity, which has offered guidance to producers, scriptwriters, storyliners, and the show's research department. Cain instinctively felt like the right character to tell this story, show producer Laura Shaw explained recently. He is a complex man that doesn't normally talk about his feelings or channel them in a helpful way. It's important men are encouraged to get checked, but we also want to sensitively explore the possible side effects patients may have, but don't necessarily talk about. It's also a love story for Cain and Moira as they navigate the tough times ahead as a married couple. For weeks, something had felt off. Cain had been restless, snappish, distracted. Moira had put it down to stress. The prison ordeal, the Tate pressure, the endless uncertainty circling their lives like vultures. But when Cain Dingle finally told her the full truth, the world seemed to narrow to a single, unbearable word. Aggressive. His prostate cancer wasn't nothing to worry about. It wasn't minor. It wasn't distant. It was aggressive. Localized, yes, but unpredictable. He'd softened it before. Downplayed it. Protected her from it. Now he stood in their kitchen, hands braced against the table, and admitted he was scared. Moira didn't cry immediately. She just stared at him. How long were you going to keep pretending? She asked quietly. I thought I could handle it. On your own. Her voice cracked. You daft man. For a long moment, anger and heartbreak flickered between them. Then she crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him. They stood like that for a long time. Two stubborn souls finally admitting they couldn't fight this separately. The farm under siege. Butler's farm had been under pressure for months. Kim Tate and Joe Tate were circling, determined to buy Moira's share. Joe already owned half. Kim wanted control. The Tates had money, leverage, patience. The Dingles had grit and diminishing options. Moira had always vowed never to sell. This land wasn't just property. It was legacy, blood, survival. But Cain's illness changed the equation. For the first time, she allowed herself to consider something she'd sworn she never would. What if protecting the family meant letting go? Summoning the Queen. The message to Kim was brief. We need to talk. Kim didn't know the reason for the summons, but she suspected it had something to do with the farm. She arrived at home farm immaculate as ever, all cool composure and subtle power. Moira didn't bother with pleasantries. I want to discuss Butler's. Kim's eyebrow arched slightly. That's new. It's not surrender, Moira clarified sharply. Kim allowed herself a faint smile. Of course not. The air between them crackled with history. Years of rivalry, mistrust, strategic blows. You and Joe want control, Moira said. You've made that clear. Business isn't personal, Kim replied smoothly. It always is. Moira leaned forward. I won't have my family thrown out. I won't have the Dingles left with nothing. If there's a deal to be done, it's on my terms. Kim studied her carefully. You're not here to warn me off, she observed. You're here because something's changed. Moira didn't confirm it, but Kim saw it in her eyes. A dangerous negotiation. Moira proposed a restructuring. A joint venture rather than a takeover. Kim would invest capital. Moira would retain operational control. Joe's influence would be limited. In return, Butler's would become part of a larger agricultural portfolio under Kim's umbrella. It was bold, risky, and deeply pragmatic. You'd trust me with that? Kim asked lightly. I don't trust you, Moira replied. I trust myself. Kim considered it carefully. What's really driving this? She asked. You've fought me tooth and nail for months. Moira hesitated. Cain's diagnosis pressed at her chest like a weight. Circumstances change, she said finally. Kim's gaze sharpened. Is this about Cain? Silence answered. For once, Kim didn't push. Because beneath the rivalry, she understood something fundamental. Family changes everything. A love story in the storm. Back at the farm, Cain sat alone in the barn, running his hand over the worn wooden beams. He felt like he was watching his own legacy slip through his fingers. When Moira returned, she found him there. You went to see her, he said quietly. And I'm not letting this farm be your last battlefield. He frowned. You need to focus on getting better, she continued. Not on proving something to Joe Tate. Cain bristled instinctively. I'm not weak. I didn't say you were. She softened. But you're human. And you're mine. The words hit harder than any argument. This wasn't about pride anymore. It was about time. I should have told you sooner, he admitted. You should have, she agreed. But we're here now. She took his hand. We face it together. Kim's calculated response. At home farm, Kim weighed her options. Moira's proposal had merit. Financially sound. Strategically clever. But more importantly, it shifted power dynamics. Joe wouldn't like being sidelined. And that intrigued Kim. When she called Moira the next morning, her voice was measured. I'm willing to discuss terms. Moira exhaled slowly. But understand this, Kim added. If you cross me, I won't hesitate. Moira smirked faintly. Wouldn't expect anything less. Joe's fury. When Joe learned of the meeting, his reaction was swift. She went behind my back, he snapped. Kim remained calm. She's protecting her family. She's undermining me. You were squeezing her too hard, Kim replied coolly. Pressure creates resistance. Joe's jaw tightened. You're choosing her over me? I'm choosing stability. Joe stormed out, but the seed of doubt had been planted. For the first time, the Tates weren't united. And Moira had engineered it. The bigger picture. Producers of Emmerdale have worked closely with Prostate Cancer UK to ensure Cain's storyline is handled with care and realism. It's not just about diagnosis. It's about pride. About masculinity. About the difficulty many men face in admitting vulnerability. Cain instinctively felt like the right character for this story. A man who bottles emotion until it explodes. But this isn't just a health storyline. It's a love story. As they navigate hospital appointments, treatment discussions, and uncertain futures, Cain and Moira rediscover something vital. They're stronger together than apart. What happens next? Will Kim accept Moira's terms fully? Will Joe retaliate? Will the farm survive a potential tuberculosis outbreak and financial strain? And most importantly, will Cain's treatment succeed? For now, Moira has seized control. Not through shouting, not through threats, but through strategy. She walked into the lion's den and refused to flinch. Because when the future of her family is at stake, Moira Dingle doesn't back down. As the sun sets over Butler's farm, she stands in the yard beside Cain. The fields stretch endlessly before them. Uncertain. Fragile. Still theirs for now. Whatever comes next, illness, rivalry, sacrifice, they'll face it side by side. And in Emmerdale, that kind of strength can change everything.